Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and well, a butterfly came out.
Honestly, like that's like the most authentic laughter I've ever heard. You know, like when you really get him, like you get a little baby and you sniff his feet and you go, oh, it's stinky. And they just bust up laughing.
Welcome to the Comedians and Elevators podcast. I've got my guest, Michael Cole. Michael, say hi, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, everybody. My name is Michael, but I go creatively by SNOG. That's like my creative brand and identity. I'm a freelance graphic designer, an artist. I'm an art student at Sacramento State University currently, getting my BA in like new media and sculpture. I may end up going for my MFA to do some teaching, but right now that's where I'm at. And I'm here in my art studio, or in this elevator, actually, speaking to you live. How's it going?
There we go. We're in the elevator, but the art studio is in Hart, right? So
It
SNOG,
is.
what is this? What does this stand for?
Oh, it's just I guess in like the UK it's a kiss, right? But when I was, I don't know, probably like 2006, I was at a friend's house and he has a little kid. He had a little kid who was like 3 years old at the time. And for some reason, when the first time he met me, he just decided that he was going to call me Snog. He hadn't really been given anybody else nicknames, but he decided that I was Snog and that's all he would call me. His dad and I worked together, so his dad thought it was funny and started calling me that. Then we have common friends, and then our friends sort of joined in. And after a while, it was just like so many people were calling me Snog that I just decided to kind of embrace it. And now
That's
it's
not
my
bad.
creative. And now it's
No,
my
that's
creative persona.
so you know how there was Jeep in Popeye, the like the little dog or whatever called Jeep, Jeep,
Yes.
Jeep. Remember that? It's the
Yeah.
same thing. Then they called then they named the Jeeps after Jeep, but it really wasn't. So we're not sure which came first. But anyway, all right. So you ready to get started, Michael?
Let's do this.
Listen, to my regular listeners, I know you don't like when at the beginning of these conversations I ask you to subscribe. None of us like it. I don't like saying it. I don't like it being in here. But it's frustrating. You know what else is frustrating? It's also frustrating when I look in the back end of the YouTube channel and I see that 56% of you that watch frequently haven't yet subscribed. And I know this because I see it in the comments section. You say things like, I didn't know I didn't subscribe. And that's actually what fuels the show. Basically, it's like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask all the time, because it enables us to build and build and build. And we're going for the long term here. Hit the subscribe button and we'll continue to build this show for you. That's my promise. Thank you to all you guys that do subscribe. It means the world to me. All right. So the whole point of the podcast is to compare and contrast the comic versus the comedian. So I define the comic as any person telling funny jokes versus the comedian who's a funny person telling any jokes. So Michael, would you agree that you start as a comic and you evolve into a comedian?
No, I would say I disagree with that because I think that some people are just born comedians. Like you got the class clown. That was my quintessential, thought of it as someone who's just funny all the time. They're kind of always on. And then you get people who are like, they grow up to be like the Jim Carreys and the Bill Murrays, which they did have some, Jim Carrey had some stand-up stuff. But overall, he's like a movie, TV kind of actor guy, and he's just a funny guy. Whereas you have someone like, Dave Chappelle, I think you mentioned him prior, or Bill Hicks, or George Carlin, who they tell jokes, but they talk about reality, and they're a stand-up comic, and they have a set that they perform, and so in my mind, that's the distinction.
I can't disagree with you. Definitely when you compare it to actors that did do more comedic roles versus dramatic roles as opposed to stand-up, because we're in this weird new modern world where, putting these labels on can or maybe not help making it clear what the hell's going on. So,
Right.
You ready for the first question, Michael?
Let's do it.
All right. So it's all about the role of persona in comedy. So how much of the comedian's voice is a character versus their real self?
Well, if you listen to Jim Carrey talk about it, he said pretty much everything he played, including himself, was a character for a long time. He really didn't. He was always kind of performing. And so I think for comedians, like I said, such as with class clowns, I don't think you're ever really seeing the true class clowns nature, who they really are inside. They're actually probably trying to cover up that. Maybe they're, a lot of comedians struggle. A lot of them have trauma in their lives, and they use laughter as a way to cope. And so a lot of times you get people who are like the class clown or the comedian who you're not really ever going to see that person's true identity, maybe because they don't want you to, and they may not know themselves. So
So whose laughter is it that is coping? Is it their own, laughing at themselves, or having other people laugh?
and it might be a combination of the both, because I make art for me, but I get something out of other people having an authentic experience with it. So it's like kind of a, a double-edged sword, I guess, if that's the way you want to say it.
So does authenticity matter, or is illusion part of the magic?
It depends on what you're going for. You in order to be illusory, or like to be someone who can create an authentic illusion, you have to understand authenticity, because if you just think you know what something is, you're going to come off, and the people who know are going to see right through that.
Okay. Makes sense. So punching up versus punching down. So where do comics versus comedians stand on this? So let me put it in some historical context. Did a jealous medieval prince become the first comedian by killing the court jester?
Let's see here. Well, I mean, I guess anything's possible. Again, like I said, yeah, that's probably taken place in the past, right? They wanted to be what was hold on, re-say the question again, so I know I'm answering it right.
Did a jealous medieval prince become the first comedian by killing the court jester? Beady, 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 beady.
Good. That's a good question there. Well, I've always viewed comics as being people who speak on life, and comedians who speak on who portray different versions of life. Mm-hmm. Court jester's kind of a combination of those two at the time. They really didn't have the type of things we have, so things more boiled down. So yeah, sure. Let's say yes to that answer, that question.
All right. So is the audience agreement with the comedian a form of permission or alignment?
That's something I struggle with, because on a separate note, you have people who are musicians or celebrities in general. I've kind of lost my hero worship when it comes to celebrities and stuff, because it's just the reality versus what you think is much different typically, right? And sorry, again, I need you to redo the question. I got lost on that answer. I'm sorry.
Permission or alignment? Do you seek permission or alignment?
There we go. Sorry, yes. So the say with like music, for instance, there's a lot of musicians. I'm really into music. There's a lot of musicians who end up being not okay people. And I've been struggling with the fact that I'm listening to their music, but they're not okay people. But prior to knowing that they were not okay people, the music meant something to me. So permitting and what's the right word? Like enabling or whatever. I don't think so. I think that if you connect with the material, that's what really matters. And then afterwards, like the comedian's behavior and stuff like that is up to you to sort of like rationalize for yourself.
Okay, that's one way to look at it. So how about cultural translation of comedy? How do jokes that work in one country bomb in another?
Well, that's an easy one, because they just don't have the same cultures in everywhere. There's a different culture up the block from me here. You know what I'm saying? And the jokes that work in this neighborhood won't work in that neighborhood. Completely different set of people.
Is it gangland? Are we in gangland territory?
No. I just mean to say that there's the business district over here, but over here is Oak Park and like more of a community of workers and things like that are over there. And so they're going to have two completely different perspectives, right? And the jokes that are going to be funny to these guys aren't going to be funny to these guys, and vice versa. So that's how that works out. Things just don't land when people don't have a personal connection to that material. Okay. They don't understand what you're talking about, or in their culture, it might be offensive what you're saying. They might not find the type of things that you're saying funny, whereas where you come from or the places you're used to may find it funny.
I actually do like that setup. I've heard many comedians doing that, especially in comedy clubs, or they're a bigger comic and they go to a small town or somewhere no one's been, and they really get into the details of the location that they've never been before and really analyze it. And some of the people that have been there their whole life don't even know, they didn't even realize that it's true, that there is a difference until someone pointed it out. So I do like that call out there. So is truth the meaning of facts?
Well, man, those are two separate words, right? For a reason, right? And your truth may be
three separate words: truth, meaning, and facts.
Oh, bet. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yes, all different words, right? And so truth is always going to be different from place to place, person to person. Your truth is going to be different from my truth, that's just by nature how we are as human. Facts are something that are widely established and almost inarguable, right? Like you can't You can't dispute them. You could, but you would be wrong no matter what you did, right? So a fact is something that's indisputable. A truth is something personal to you, and meaning is a perception, something that you look at and you see it in your own specific way, and you find your meaning in it. Because again, it's not going to be the same as this guy's meaning. The stuff I find meaning in would be maybe trivial or superficial to the next guy, and the stuff that they're into may seem, obnoxious and pretentious to me. Who knows?
So it sounds like you're saying yes to the question. I think that's how I'm understanding it. Is truth the meaning of facts? I hear a yes. Is that correct?
Is truth what?
The meaning of facts. I'm hearing a yes from your description. Am I missing it?
No, because I would say that truth is something that is arguable. Right. So there's truth, I would say, in facts, but as far as perception goes to a truth, let's see here. I'm trying to explain
perception to a fact.
Well, so let's just say if you're in the North Pole and the South Pole, right? And one guy points up, you're both pointing up, right? Now you're pointing away from the Earth, and you're both pointing up away from it, but you're pointing in opposite directions right now, right?
Yes. So what is the meaning of the equator?
The meaning of the equator.
That's what they can both agree on. Is that's where that's
oh, you mean the happy medium, the like middle of it?
They share the equator, right?
Sure. Yeah. There's that space in between the meeting ground.
This is a very tough question. I'm very difficult philosophical question to throw at you. I know it is, but that's what I'm trying to.
I'm into it, dude. I've taken a lot of psychedelics, so I'm all the way there, tuned in.
All right, love it. So are comics more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
Well, again, I think that comics are a commentator on the human condition, and they speak about their personal experience in life and the way they view things. And comedians sort of make fun of everything, right? And so I think the comedians, man, I keep getting lost on what we are saying again. Your questions are so difficult. I know what I mean when I start talking.
I understand. Listen, that's the whole point. Is that the
all good? I'm just trying to make sure I answer you properly.
Sure. Are comics more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
So I think that comics are more interested in like the human condition, like I said, in people, and so they study a lot more. And so whereas someone that I would consider a comedian to be an actor, more or less, and they would just basically, it's like an engineer. An engineer, when I used to work in HVAC, for instance, an engineer, they just look at a blueprint and they write down where the exhaust fans and the intakes and all that should go. However, they don't know that there's been a remodel at this place. It doesn't show up on here. So when you're the technician actually doing the installing, you can't do it like the engineer says. And that means you don't have the right materials. You don't have enough materials. And it's not what you need. I'm not saying actors don't do all that and comedians don't go through all that. But what I'm saying is though I feel that comics like George Carlin are people who really go in depth. If you looked at their comedy, Dave Chappelle, Bill Hicks, again, like I said, those three guys are kind of like the ones I go to as far as comics go. They really have studied people. They really looked at the nuances of each person. And I get the impression, especially with George Carlin, that he practices, that's like a speech. They from beginning to end, and they have a set that goes specifically for this crowd that they're into. And I think that the comics would be more relevant than a comedian would.
Okay. I think I know why you're having a hard time with the questions, is because you disagree with the premise. Remember that I said that comics evolve into comedians, and you said you disagree. So if so, I could see why every question I ask from that point on is based off of that being a fact, and you disagree. Obviously, there's going to be some cognitive dissonance, but let's see if we can bring it back.
That's why I'm trying to, I keep having to make sure that I'm answering, right. So forgive me on that. So.
Not at all. This is the interesting part, because how do you answer the question that's leaning into it's biased, right? I'm biased with the questions based off of
again, I'm just giving you my truth, right? We were talking about truth and facts. I'm just giving you my truth.
Absolutely.
Can you hear that train that goes by? Sorry, Keith. That train just went by. Did you hear it?
Nope.
Nice.
No. We got, the noise canceling catches some things and not others. Sometimes
Right.
it's a surprise, like, why was that heard, not this? Who knows? So crowd work, no, we are on, crowd work versus crafted work. So if comics riff like influencers in the comments section and comedians perform like in reaction videos, where is the sweet spot? I'm going to tell you, this is the hard question because you have to assume the premise, that you agree with the premise. Do you agree that
Sure.
comics riff?
Yeah, for sure, of course, and not all the time. Like I said,
Right.
George Carlin had you could see it in his set. The guy he would get stopped and he would start right back where he left. There was no it was very rare that he would throw in some flair or change. You could tell that he rehearsed his comedy from beginning to end and he knew it by heart. And there's really no deviation or no time for riffs because riffs create confusion in your process.
Yeah. So George Carlin's a great example. I mean, I don't even recall seeing a set where he really did crowd work. He would maybe at best ask, yes or no questions. And so
No, he's very George Carlin-esque, meaning that he's about George and it's great because the guy's a friggin' genius. But the show is about him. You're there to see him and he's got all the focus on him and you're basically kind of just sit there and react to what he's saying and take it all in. And now there's really I don't recall a time where he did any crowd work, at least not in his later years. The earlier comedy might have been a little different. I didn't get a lot of exposure to that.
Right. Yeah. So what happens when a comic leans too much into crowd work?
I would say that it takes a special kind of person to be able to do crowd work effectively. Some people are going to lean a little bit into the negative aspect of it and sort of pick people apart, or that's the first thing to go to, right? Is to find someone that has sort of like a flaw or an obvious and something obvious to pick out on them. It's real hard to have a conversation off the cuff with someone from the crowd, especially if they've been drinking, that is funny. You're going to oftentimes end up with just a dud. And I don't know this from personal experiences. I'm not a comic, but I've been to comedy shows. I was at a comedy show in Washington, I don't know, 5 years ago or something. And the guy's going through the crowd and doing this crowd work. He's kind of interacting with everybody, and he came by me and he just kept going. And I was like, why didn't he pick me? And I was like, hey, and I waved my hand. He's like, no, buddy, I'm not even going to go there. He's like, you'll get upset, and I'm like, I don't mind, what I'm saying? But he had every intention of roasting, and that was basically what he was doing. And he picked me out as being someone who might have a problem with that. And so he didn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he's going to call you out on maybe the shirt and the implications of that, and then you get upset about it, he doesn't know. Maybe you're cool. Maybe you're not. Who knows?
No idea. That's what I'm saying. So that I would say that person wasn't an effective crowd worker.
Fair
They
enough.
wanted to be. Maybe they are now. I don't know. Oh,
So
sorry, Mike.
So that, yeah.
I'm sorry, man.
What's going on? We got the
Motion
wind flow.
sensors.
Motion
sensors, man. Sorry.
All right. No problem. So what happens when a comedian gets heckled?
A comedian gets heckled. Well, if they're good enough, they're able to come back with witty. Comedians are usually very witty. Like I said, like a class clown. They've got them. They're on deck. There's no rehearsing. There's no wait a minute. They got those things loaded up. And so if they're a good comedian, they've got good comebacks. They're just ready to go, just kind of in their back pocket, my guess.
All right. Very, very important question. Advertising and self-promotion. Who advertises themselves more, the comic, the comedian, or the magician? You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast and get the message out today. See you soon.
Well, for sure, I would say not the magician. Magicians are like they're cool and stuff, but I don't see a lot of marketing for magicians. I'll tell you that much. Maybe it's just because my algorithm isn't tuned into that, but I do see a lot of advertisements for stand-up comedy, and gosh, there's movies. Movies are being advertised all the time, right? Which is where comedians find their core work. So I would say that, let's say, the comedian.
Fair enough. So is self-promotion seen as selling out, or is it necessary for survival? Selling out.
Well, I used to feel like it was selling out. Selling out, it means, but that's just because I had a misunderstanding of what the term selling out means. Selling out doesn't mean that now you're popular. Selling out means that you change something in order to become popular. It's fine to be successful in your industry and to find that professional and monetary success. That's not selling out. That's success, and now you want that for everybody. Selling out is when somebody changes something that is very obvious or a very like something that is authentically them in order to be successful.
All right. Censorship and offense. So does a comic avoid offense while a comedian courts it to prove a point, like a magician?
Well, I would say one of the biggest comedians out there is Jack Black. I would say at the moment, anyways, right? He's one of the most notable comedians. And I don't know if you remember a while back, I don't want to open up any old wounds because I know it's not something they want to talk about, but Kyle Gass, Jack's partner in Tenacious D, they were down in Australia, and Kyle made an unsavory comment about the president, or he wasn't the president at the time, but he made an unsavory comment that wasn't taken well. I'm not even going to reference it just because. And Jack immediately distanced himself from that. Now, he had Mario Brothers, he had Minecraft. He's got all these projects that were either out, just coming out, or about to be out, and he couldn't risk losing that and damaging his reputation. So as a comedian, he had to do that damage control and back off. Now you get someone like Dave Chappelle, who almost invites that kind of thing. I wouldn't say he invites the controversy, but he's ready for the dialogue. He's ready to give you his response if you have something negative to say, and he's not running from it. I'm not saying he's right or wrong or awesome or not. I'm just saying that from my perspective on what I see. He's not there making jokes that are offensive and then running away when someone questions him about it, or saying, "Oh, no, I didn't mean to hurt anyone's feelings."
Right, right. So who survives better in the cancel culture environment? The comic, the comedian, the magician, or the mudslinger?
Well, I would say in a cancel culture environment, the reality is that nobody's safe and that everybody could be canceled at any moment. The mudslingers, they do a lot of yelling and stomping and pointing their fingers at people. And the fact is that at any moment, someone could just shine the light on them. And every single one of us has mud on us. So that mud that they're slinging is coming from somewhere. They're picking it up from somewhere, you know what I'm saying? And so it's coming from, they're not even attacking those people. They're just mad at the world, you know what I'm saying? And then you have these other people doing the other people you were talking about, all the people, it's equal opportunity canceling. I think that's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
All right, fair enough. So comedy is commentary. So when does a comedian cross into being a philosopher or a preacher?
Man, philosopher is a stretch. I would say comics have a higher propensity for being philosophers. Comedians, like I said, in my opinion, from my perspective of the situation, they sort of imitate life. I guess that's the right way to say it. So they imitate the parts of life that they find humorous in order to dredge laughter and humor from other people, to pull that out of them, and so yeah, it's a hard question.
Well, I mean, is there anyone particular that you see that does that?
It does what again?
That's preachy.
Oh, preachy. Man, outside of their personas, yeah, there's a lot of people in Hollywood who have preachy, like they have they're woke, or they're whatever their stuff is. They have causes that they want to talk about. So yeah, like I guess those guys are at the most risk for being preachy, because I feel like the other guys are just kind of, I don't want to say telling it like it is, but they're telling it as they see it.
Right. All right, Michael, you ready to enter the multiverse?
Let's do it.
All right. So, board game, Zoomcast, play versus performance. If comedy were a board game Zoomcast, are you competing as the colorist, adding tone, mood, and shading, or the Foley artist, building punchlines with soundscapes and timing?
Oh, I'm not the timing guy. I'm the first one for sure.
You're
I'm
the
an artist. I'm the
colorist?
behind the scenes sort of like mood setter. Um, I'm the yeah. You don't see me. That's my
Well, the
current
Foley
profession.
artist is as well behind the scenes.
Yeah, but I just don't create any of the dance moves. I'm not a
Uh,
choreographer that way. You know.
they're not a choreographer either. They're just doing the sounds,
Oh, I thought you were saying they create the punchlines and all that.
the soundscapes and timing, like the
The
post.
timing.
Yeah, like, cinematic timing.
I would still say I'm the first guy.
Fair enough. So does comedy work better when it's painted vividly or when it's orchestrated sonically?
Well, I would say honestly to you, dude, I think it could go either way, man. Like I don't know that there's one that's above the other. It's all again perception, culture. I found things that had no words in them whatsoever to be incredibly funny, and things that had words that were supposed to be funny, I didn't think were funny at all. So,
Right.
so
Well, the
you
reason
know,
I'm putting this again, it's my bias because I'm saying I'm arguing that the comic, you evolve from a comic into a comedian, and that the comic is the visual and the comedian is the sonic, is the audible. So that's the perspective from the joke. That's where I'm coming from with that.
I
So
get you. I get you.
right. Okay. So we have a tradition here on the Comedians in Elevators podcast where we ask the previous guest a question for the next guest. And so the previous guest was Nina Vito, and her question for you, Michael, is what makes you laugh the most?
My children's laughter. Honestly, like that's like the most authentic laughter I've ever heard. Like when you really get him, like you get a little baby and you sniff his feet and you go, oh, it's stinky. And they just bust up laughing. Like they think it's the most hilarious thing. And that when they're really truly laughing, like I can feel it all the way inside of myself. And yeah.
Oh, that's a great call out. I don't recall ever seeing that happening, but now I'm going to look for it. Now I'm going to see it everywhere. Maybe I'll make an AI. Oh, oh man, am I going to make that AI slop of what you just described? I hope not. I'll refrain from attempting that. Okay,
I
so
just love my kids. They just make me laugh. They just say the funniest stuff, and
right,
their humor is unsullied. They don't have these
right,
these indoctrinations that we have, and insecurities, and they'll just say it. So
yeah,
they're more honest.
yeah. They're going for the surprise. Everything's a surprise to when they're young, right?
That's true.
All right, last question. Legacy. Who gets remembered? Will the comics Tight Five survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
I'm gonna have to ask you to say that again because right then a train went by. You couldn't hear it,
Is
but
it that bad? Oh, well, okay.
yeah.
So, legacy. Who gets remembered? Will the comics Tight Five survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
Well, I'm looking at your perspective is different than mine of what makes what. But from my perspective, I'm trying to think of who has more longevity in our culture specifically here in the
Mhm.
United States. Um,
What about in
because I don't.
what about in the business district that you're in? That's different than the residential down the street. Is
Well,
there
that's what I mean. Like I think that one more time, say the
just
question
to
one
make it
more.
more difficult? Was that a commuter train or a cargo train?
Commuter train. It's a light rail.
Ah, so it's got the horn coming at you.
It's just very high pitched. The rails get real high pitched, and then it comes by
Ah,
very fast, but it's
right.
loud because it's maybe like 10 feet out my door,
Oh, so the
like
whole
right
building's
there.
shaking.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
what was the question one more time?
well, I mean, you can't forget it, right? It's in your bones. So the train, that is. So will the comics Tight Five survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
Gosh, I hope the comics survive. I don't know the right answer. I couldn't say for sure, but I hope it's the comics because I feel like those dudes are more authentic and sincere with their approach, and like I feel like I look at comics as modern day philosophers. Like I feel like that we don't really have many philosophers in uh our culture. Anyways, you have political people and spiritual people and all this stuff, but actually people who have like not very much affiliation with either side of those, who are just looking at things, looking at the forest for the trees. We don't have a lot of those people. And so, comics, I sure hope that they're remembered the longest.
All right,
I sure try to say their names enough. I got Bill Hicks, I got George Carlin. I'll say those guys' names and they won't have to suffer that second death.
Oh, damn. I'm with you on that one. I know that they defended George Carlin against AI because AI was doing George Carlin almost better than George Carlin did, which is a sad thing to say. I'm not trying to take away anything from him, but he's so good that AI could mirror him. Anyway.
Yeah, no, he definitely has a pattern. There's like a clear George Carlin routine that you could pretty much easily pull from it for sure. There's a format.
So Michael, where can everybody find you online?
Well, I don't really have any websites right now, but on Instagram you'd find me at either my personal page, which is King Snog, KINGSNOG, Snog,
Nice.
or you will find me at Snogs Art, SNOGSART at Snogs Art. So it's on Instagram, both of those. I'm really just there. I don't mess around too much, but I'm gonna have a website soon, so you'll see that there too.
Very cool, Michael. Well, thank you so much for being my guest, and for everyone, please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye bye.